Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome, one and all, to a special 2 p.m. Tuesday matinee edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobular, of course.
Hello.
There he is. Pull that mic a little closer.
Yeah, you sure?
I
don't want it to clip.
Little bit closer. That's right. No, you're looking fine there. Russell's a little tired today. That's why he's reclining, because he had a workout, and he's going to get a workout later. We will not disclose details where he's going to be. That's a surprise. We might have some videos for you guys dropping tonight on Twitter.
Two words: Stormy and Daniels.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Can't drop that on YouTube, but
you could check those out on Odyssey.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yes, indeed. No, we will not disclose what we have. We got a little something maybe for you guys tonight. So follow us on Twitter at Do Dissidents. We got a lot to get to today, but we do have one order of business that we have to take care of right away. Russell, left hand up. Russell, Rumble 831 on Rumble
first.
Yeah, the Rumble chat is routing the YouTube chat so far today. It's because we're on the Editor Picks homepage. They've been featuring us on their homepage a lot, so thanks. Shout out to you guys for doing that for us. We appreciate that.
And at the live show, I'm going to bring my opening night shirt out of retirement. I have not worn that shirt in 10 years. It hangs on a place of honor on my wall. It is the shirt that I was wearing at my first opening night when I was 16 of anything I directed. And it is, of course, a Dio shirt.
Oh, there you go. Nice. Excellent. Well, tomorrow we are on at 2 p.m. With perhaps Anya Parampil. Anya's not on today. She had to reschedule because they're having some childcare issues. But we are hoping to get her on tomorrow. If not, we'll make it work sometime next week. No biggie. Plenty of stuff to cover.
Kind of works out because it's giving me more time to read her book. Which is really interesting. It's really interesting. It's very good.
Yeah. So that's the silver lining there. So maybe Anya Parampil tomorrow, maybe next week. We will figure that out kind of as we go. But it's just us two JOOs for the afternoon. And we do want to get into things. Just one last program note before we start. Tomorrow we are on at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we will be doing a supporter stream tomorrow night at 8 p.m. So patrons, paid Substackers, and paid Locals members, mark that down. At 8 o'clock tomorrow night, we will be live exclusively on Rumble, exclusively for our paid subscribers. That is a supporter-exclusive stream tomorrow night at 8 p.m. And then we have the Thursday 9 a.m. show. We're doing the old clopin, as we used to say in the retail world. You close the store one night, you open the store the next morning. So that's what we got going on. But we thank you guys all very much for being here. Hit that like button, please. Hit that subscribe button over on Rumble. Hit that follow button. And buckle up. Buckle up is an interesting lead into our first segment of the day here. Raisi's death adds volatility as conflict shakes the Middle East. That's right. The Iranian president's death comes at a time of uncertainty as the Islamic Republic and Israel remain engaged in an escalating confrontation. The Washington Post reports the death of Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi in a helicopter crash Sunday quickly set in motion a leadership transition that officials insisted would leave the Islamic Republic in steady hands and would probably lead to little change in the country's direction, analysts said. Why? Well, here's why. The Iranian nation shouldn't be worried, said Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, Iran's supreme leader, according to state media. Raisi was seen as an enforcer of Khamenei's edicts rather than an independent actor, according to analysts. So essentially, he's a figurehead. But if there was uncertainty caused by Raisi's death, it was in its timing. During an escalating confrontation between Iran and Israel that has stoked alarm in the Middle East and beyond. The conflict, a hair-trigger affair set off by the war in Gaza, has manifested in rising violence on Lebanon's southern border, in the Red Sea, and in Syria and Iraq. Last month, direct fighting between Israel and Iran raised the level of anxiety after Israeli strikes killed Iranian military commanders in Syria. Iran responded by firing a barrage of hundreds of munitions towards Israel. Between the two regional rivals, quote, the old rules of the game are out and the new rules are not fully established, Ali Vaez, director of the Iran Project and senior advisor on the International Crisis Group, said during a panel discussion in Qatar on Monday. Raisi's death has added, quote, uncertainties to the ambiguity that existed between Iran and Israel, which increases the risks of miscalculation, he said. Raisi, a hardliner and loyalist of the supreme leader, died in a helicopter crash in Iran's East Azerbaijan province, along with Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian, I hope I said that right, and other officials, Iranian state media announced on Monday. Raisi was traveling to the city of Tabriz in northwestern Iran on Sunday after attending the opening of a dam along the border with Azerbaijan when his helicopter crashed. And Al Jazeera has some of the details on the recovery effort there. Rescuers recover bodies from Iran President Raisi's helicopter crash sites. Iranians are in mourning after President Ebrahim Raisi was confirmed dead on Monday when search and rescue teams found his crashed helicopter in a fog-shrouded western mountain region. Iranian authorities first raised the alarm on Sunday afternoon when they lost conflict with Raisi's helicopter as it flew through the mountain area of the Jolfa region in East Azerbaijan province. Raisi had earlier met Azerbaijan's President Ilham Aliyev on the two countries' border to inaugurate a dam project. On the return trip, only 2 of the 3 helicopters in his convoy landed in the city of Tabriz, setting off a massive search and rescue effort, with multiple foreign governments soon offering help. So at the time we were live on Sunday night, the helicopter they were in had simply not landed.
Yeah,
and
well,
had
they called
disappeared.
it a rough landing, so it wasn't even clear they had really crashed.
Right. There was still a lot of mystery at the time. Interior Minister Ahmed Vahidi at first spoke of a hard landing and urged citizens to ignore hostile foreign media channels and get their information only from state television. The Army, Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, and the police joined the search as Red Crescent teams walked up a hill in the fog and rain while rows of emergency services vehicles waited nearby. As the sun rose on Monday, rescue crews said they had located the destroyed aircraft with 9 people on board. Killed alongside Raisi were Foreign Minister Hossein that's that name again, Amir Abdullahian, wow, that's a tough one, and 7 others, including the pilot, bodyguards, and political and religious officials. State television IRIB reported online that the helicopter had, quote, hit a mountain and disintegrated on impact. And as you can see, the photos here, quite foggy. This is the rescue effort as underway. The search party, there you can see what looks like part of the aircraft there on the left-hand side of the frame. And as you can see, quite dense fog even the morning after. So at risk of boring the audience who were, I won't say badgering us, but pushing us for a take on this on Sunday nights, this seems to me, unless we Jews really do control the weather, which I don't believe we do, that this was an accident.
Well, it's been pretty apparent for a long time who you actually work for, Keaton.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
Obviously, this was no accident. This was the Mossad working with Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
To bring down the helicopter.
That's how fast it takes for a guy to get whacked.
Indeed.
That's it.
Indeed.
No, you have to be careful not to always jump to that conclusion. It's tempting under the circumstances.
Of course.
But shit does happen. And if you take up a helicopter in a misty mountain situation, these things happen. I was telling Keaton before we came on, there are certain things that I do that have a certain level of risk because it's not worth the life I would have to live by not doing it. There's not enough risk for me to impose the limitations on myself of not doing it. Riding in a helicopter is one of the things I won't do because for me, the juice is not worth the squeeze on that. And I'm not saying there's an enormous level of risk, but we have the tour helicopters here in New York. You can book those helicopter tours. And yeah, man, every now and then those things crash and it doesn't sound like a fun death. A lot of times they land in the water upside down and the people drown. Like, fuck that. Yeah, if I had to do it to like air vac to a medical facility or something, of course but as recreation, no, I would not do it. Now, these people, they work in government, they file that under you have to do it. It's part of the job. They have to get around.
In a dense fog like that? I mean, that's the thing.
Why
why
did they take it up in those conditions?
Exactly.
They pulled a JFK Jr.
Obviously, when something like this happens, your first thought is foul play under the circumstances. Yeah. When you learn that there was this dense fog, and Al Jazeera seems to be corroborating that with the photos here. Okay, so there was definitely a dense fog. You're definitely up in a helicopter flying through a mountainous region. Like, there's just not evidence to think it was not an accident at this point.
No.
There just simply
isn't.
And
in the absence of evidence, you got to kind of take it for what it is. There are people who, if any political figure dies, assumes they were assassinated. And
I assumed he was.
You just can't go down that road.
I mean, look, I assumed that when I first heard it. I'll be honest with you. I assumed foul play as soon as I heard it just because of the coincidental timing. But then you learn it was a foggy day. Then you realize this isn't even like if the Ayatollah went down in a helicopter, you'd be even more suspicious. This guy was an enforcer. This guy was a figurehead. This doesn't even really change much between Iran and the West. And so really,
why
the evidence just isn't there to
way?
think this is something other than a tragic accident on a very foggy day where, I don't think you should be up there.
Right.
Take a train, take a car. It's foggy. You're in a helicopter.
Bike.
Yeah.
Take a bike. It's very good for your heart.
Or wait till the fog passes. You don't have a place you could stay? You're flying through a mountainous region in dense fog?
I have heard there are some wonderful Airbnbs in that part of the world.
That's true. That's true. Russell's going to book one for next year.
They could have booked an Airbnb. And also, Iran would not be shy, I do not believe, about accusing Israel if there were any evidence that Israel was responsible.
That's true. That's true, too. You'd have those accusations flying already. An outlet like Al Jazeera certainly, I don't think, would be beyond suspecting foul play if there were reason to suspect foul play. We just don't really see it. And some of you guys were asking us why we weren't covering this on Sunday. Well, this is exactly why, because it was an incomplete story. And actually, he wasn't even confirmed dead when we were on the air Sunday night. He was confirmed dead literally 15 minutes after we got off the air. So had we covered it Sunday night, that would have had a shelf life of about 15 minutes, and on the clip form, a shelf life of about negative 12 hours. So, sometimes you got to wait and see where the information leads. So that's that, I think.
Yeah, that was also before the audio from the cockpit came out.
I'm giving her all she's got, Captain. If I push it any harder, the whole thing will blow.
I didn't know they had black
that's
boxes
the last
on those kind of planes.
transmission from the helicopter.
Yeah, I didn't know they had
clearly
black
it was an
boxes
accident
on the Iranian helicopters. Yeah,
They do.
exactly.
They do. It's an innovation of the Iranians.
The times are changing. All right, let's take some Rumble Rants and Super Chats. Nocturnal Human, any update on Nina from the last stream? No, we wouldn't have heard from her until she calls in again, which I'm assuming she will. So obviously, all the best to her. My real name, thanks for the $5. It seems fishy, but accidents do happen. Accidents do happen, especially in a foggy, mountainous region in a tiny aircraft, for sure. Yes, Adon, I like this. If JOOs controlled the weather, don't you think they'd complain less about drafts? Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Drafts would be our bread and butter if we controlled the weather. That's true. Yes. We make the drafts. We don't complain about the drafts. We create drafts.
We would send the draft only to the Goyim tables.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Virtuoso, Hillary in 2011. We came, we saw, he died. Bill in 1998. I came, she saw, I lied. See you boys at June 9th at 7 o'clock. Yes, Virtuoso, I know you got your ticket. We'll see you again.
We'll see you there.
We met Virtuoso when we were out canvassing for Jose Vega. Virtuoso was at the Yankee game that day, and the table was set up right outside the stadium. So thanks, Virtuoso, for that. John R. says, good job on Savage Joy. Thank you. Yep, that stream is still up. So if you want to catch us on the replay, we're on our friend Savage Joy's show last night. I like she runs a tight ship on that show. She just moves bang, 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 1 hour in and out. That's a streamlined operation she's got there. But yes, always fun to see her. We had not been on her show in the past. She's been on our show a few times to highlight her activism. So we were happy to appear over there. That was fun last night. All right, let's go on to some good news. Good news, folks, on the Julian Assange front. Of course, WikiLeaks, Julian Assange wins right to appeal U.S. extradition. NBC News reports British court gave WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange permission to launch a full appeal against his extradition to the U.S. on espionage charges Monday after more than a decade of legal battles. 2 judges at the High Court in London said Assange, who was born in Australia, could have a full appeal to hear his argument that he might be discriminated against because he is a foreign national. See, I didn't think of that. I always thought the discrimination assurance was kind of a strange one, but I guess they're concerned that maybe because he's a foreign national, they won't take his First Amendment rights as seriously because they're not his rights because he's not a citizen. But there was a separate assurance there that said, yeah, he'll be protected by the First Amendment, which is a garbage guarantee because if they were guaranteeing that, they'd drop the charges. So anyway, I suspected, we'll get into this in a few minutes, I suspected this could go this way because I didn't think that the UK court would ask for assurances from the US unless they were skeptical of the US case. And as Russell, I mean, you've said this, well, I'll toss to you in a minute, but you said you could sense a sort of shift in momentum when you were there on the ground because Russell covered the Day X hearing. So this ruling is an extension of the Day X hearings and a victory not only for Julian and his family and his team, but for everybody who showed up on those 2 days. So this is a great story. Assange's legal avenues in the UK would have been exhausted had the High Court ruled the extradition could go ahead. His legal team said last week that he could have been put on a plane to the U.S. within 24 hours if it ruled against him. Assange lawyer Edward Fitzgerald had told the judges they should not accept American prosecutors' assurance that Assange could seek the protections given under the First Amendment, as a U.S. court would not be bound by that. We say this is a blatantly inadequate assurance, he told the court, Reuters reported. However, Reuters said he had accepted a separate assurance that Assange would not face the death penalty, saying the U.S. had provided an unambiguous promise not to charge any capital offense. I don't think that was ever really in question.
No.
It could be months before the appeal is heard. Assange, 52, was not in court to hear his fate being debated for health reasons. Fitzgerald said he did not attend for health reasons. Hundreds of protesters cheered outside the court as news of the verdict came through. At the hearing, Assange's wife, Stella, whom he married behind bars in 2022, said at a news conference that her husband was obviously relieved by the judgment. She spoke in front of quite a few microphones yesterday, so here's one of her speeches to the crowd.
I want to be very clear. Today marks a turning point. We went into court and we sat and heard the United States fumbling through their arguments, trying to paint lipstick on a pig. Well, the judges were not convinced. Everyone can see what's going on here. The United States case is offensive. It offends our democratic principles. It offends our right to know. It is an attack on journalists everywhere. We are relieved as a family that the courts took the right decision today. But how long can this go on for? Our eldest son just turned 7. All their memories of their father are in the visiting hall of Belmarsh Prison. And as the case goes along, it becomes clearer and clearer to everyone that Julian is in prison for doing good journalism, for exposing corruption, for exposing the violations on innocent people in abusive wars, for which there is impunity. And on top of that impunity, they've gone after the man who put that impunity onto the public record. The Biden administration should distance itself from this shameful prosecution. It should have done so from day one. But it may be running out of time to do the right thing. Everyone can see what should be done here. Julian must be freed. The case should be abandoned. He should be compensated. He should be given the Nobel Prize. And he should walk freely with the sand beneath his feet. He should be able to swim in the sea again. Free Assange. Free us all.
The poetic quality of a rare sunny day in London. Much better weather than when you were there, and probably a more jubilant mood in the air. Although, I remember you saying when you covered this at the time, for those who are new to the channel, Russell was in London for the Day X hearings, thanks to all of our wonderful audience members who helped fund that project. And you mentioned that after day one of the hearings, the mood was pretty somber. Lunchtime, day two, the mood was still pretty somber, but then in the second half of the day two hearing, you noticed they came out more optimistic, noticeably more than when they came in, correct?
Yeah, well, I actually got to speak to Stella when she came out, and yeah, her attitude was very different. The first day, they were very demoralized. There was something wrong with the sound system. So the journalists were in a separate room watching it on a TV, and the sound was out. And of course, everyone suspected foul play. Everyone suspected that the journalists were being intentionally kept from hearing the proceedings. So that combined with, I gather it was the prosecutor's case that day, or the U.S. was making their case. But the combination of all that, yeah, they were very demoralized the first day. But the second day in the courtroom, something shifted. And Stella said the kinds of questions they were asking, that the judges were asking, were very encouraging. And that the U.S. was really fumbling their case in the face of those questions. You know, it was very...
Day two was when the U.S. made their case, right? Assange's team made their case day one, and then the United States got to make their case on day two.
Right. So day two, yeah, they were much more optimistic than they had been. And now we can see there was reason for that. So what you're seeing when you saw that crowd, that's the court. That's the court. The crowd is standing outside that court. And this is the same viewing stand area that they had set up for that. But that's great that hundreds of people came out also for the decision again. That looked like a pretty good crowd there. You know, I feel bad that all of these people have to eat the food in that country. Right. But these are the sacrifices you make for freedom and for journalistic integrity. I mean, Stella, I don't know how she does it. Exactly. I don't know how she does it. I mean, I guess she just goes to Chinatown, you know, gets kebabs.
Indian food's good there.
Indian food's good. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, this is the best we could have hoped for. And as you pointed out on Joy's show, yeah, I mean, you can't be sure that the activism swayed the judges, but it seems like it might have had an influence.
Absolutely. And I think it certainly did. So here is a tweet that Stella put out. Thank you, everyone, for your support today. Today was a major victory, and the U.S. is on the back foot. Keep fighting and fighting until Julian walks alongside us. And on the activism front, here's Matt Kennard. I was in court today. Be in no doubt it was a huge victory for Julian Assange. In just over an hour, the U.S. was completely shredded. The CIA's lawyers were all over the place. What's that?
U.S. case was completely shredded.
Yeah, that's what I said, right? Did I say something different?
Said the U.S. was completely shredded.
Oh, the U.S. case was... All right, sorry, I skipped a word. It's a testament to Assange's activists around the world. You are amazing. So here he is making this point.
I'm more hopeful today than I've been in the whole case. And I also think I think it's a testament to the activists who have been on this case for years and years. And they're often people that get no recognition and no one knows their names, but they're out, especially this case particularly, there's Assange activists that are super dedicated, out in the rain, shine, outside Belmarsh, outside the courtroom, and I think they've had an impact. Activism has had an impact. So testament to them, and we've got to keep going, and we've got to keep raising the issue and get it as mainstream as possible, and we can win.
Absolutely. Matt Kennard, Declassified UK, your work is fantastic.
Thank you.
I utilize it. I encourage people to, if folks here are not following Declassified UK, please do it. But Matt, thanks so much for your work.
So that's Declassified UK if you want to follow Matt. And then we're also going to hear from Chloe Schlossberg, who is the Free Assange campaign director. She was interviewed in the street by a friend of the show, Matthew Ho, who was in London for this. So here's him interviewing
he was there for this.
Chloe Schlossberg.
For the decision?
Yep.
Oh.
So here she is echoing these same sentiments. What a relief it is for these activists. Now, huge asterisk here is that Julian Assange is still in jail, and yes, we need the case dropped. He likely has a few months to maybe even a year, because between the first and second hearing was about a year. So assuming he has another year in the courts, that's the good news. The bad news is he might not, unfortunately, have another year left. He is in deteriorating health, and so there's still a lot of urgency here. But in terms of this timeline from day X through now, this was an absolute victory that is a credit to Julian, his family, his team, and yes, the people in the streets that day and every day as this case goes on. So here is the Free Assange campaign director interviewed by our pal, Matt Ho.
I'm actually...
How are you feeling?
I'm emotional.
Yes, yeah. It's okay. I mean, same thing too. When it first got announced, it was for me, don't start crying.
Yeah.
And then when Stella started, now I'm bringing it up, making you like this, but it's okay because I think a lot of us feel this way.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to take the win. Like when we get it, I want to take it, and I'm trying to. Julian still sat in Belmarsh prison. Julian was too sick to attend today. I have to keep that at the forefront of my mind. This fight is not over. Right. But this was a win, and we needed it, and something is changing. Right. And I can see it. He's going to be home with his wife and his kids. He's going to be swimming in that sea, avoiding all sorts of dangerous creatures that exist in the Australian oceans. I wouldn't go in it, but that guy's been swimming with the sharks for a long time.
Right, exactly.
He can handle the Australian Ocean, but I think it's coming.
To be fair, the land is plenty dangerous in Australia as well. You got giant spiders and bugs and lizards and
there is no refuge for the faint-hearted on that continent.
Yeah, right. So the sea is really not that much more treacherous than the land.
Change is coming. I think justice is coming. I think the guy should get the Nobel Prize. I think it's happening, and I just feel I'm trying to hold it together, but I couldn't let myself think anything potentially positive might happen. We've been let down so many times at every stage, and this was not that. This was not that. Something shifted, and it's going to keep shifting until we bring Julian Assange home.
Right. I mean, hey, we're up against the empire here.
Yeah.
Right. So why should we have hope? But we do, and we have hope because of this.
Pressure.
Right. Pressure. And we have hope because of the solidarity.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is important to claim these victories when we win them, because movements run on victories. They die on losses.
Yep.
When you can prove to yourself and your team and your activists that actually getting out there in the cold, nasty, wet, rainy misery of those 2 days when Russ was out there can apply pressure.
It was nasty. I mean, there's mid-February in England. It's probably the worst time you could possibly be there in terms of the weather.
Yeah. But getting out there helps. It helps. The momentum is certainly with him. The wind is at his back now. The question is, does Biden just drop the case? If you really want to differentiate yourself from Donald Trump, if you're worried about your base abandoning you, the question should be asked to Joe Biden: why is it that your old boss, Barack Obama, whose name you drop at every chance, why is it that he decided not to pursue these charges? Donald Trump did. And why are you siding with Donald Trump over Barack Obama? You really want to make it simple for him, right? Really want to put the kind of pressure on Joe Biden that he understands, which is, this is Trumpy. Do whatever you have to do. That's how you have to frame the argument. If that's how you have to build momentum, that's how you build momentum, because that is the truth of what's happening. He's siding with Mike Pence. Every day that this case is not dropped, Joe Biden is siding with Donald Trump over Barack Obama. So any messaging campaign should center on that if you're directing it at Joe Biden, because that is something that his base is not going to be happy with.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing that's kind of ridiculous about Donald Trump being cast as this warrior against the deep state. Reading Anya's book right now, it brought back to me, it reminded me of how it was actually the Trump administration that tried to install Guaido as the leader of Venezuela with no election. They did polling in the country. 81% of people didn't know who Guaido was.
Right.
That was the Trump administration. You cannot get more classic deep state than to try to install a U.S.-friendly government against the will of the people in South America. I mean, now you're playing the classics to do something like that. So the idea that Donald Trump, who prosecuted Julian Assange, who tried to install a puppet government in Venezuela, is this warrior against the deep state. It's a joke. I mean, once in a while he says some shit on TV they don't like. But in the end, I have said if Donald Trump is allowed to assume the presidency, I have to rethink what I believe about the deep state. And some people have come back with perhaps more wisely than I've admitted, he's no threat to them.
Right. Maybe you have to rethink Donald Trump.
Maybe I have to rethink Donald Trump. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe he just doesn't make him as nervous as we think he does.
Exactly. And so last video I want to play in this segment is from WikiLeaks editor-in-chief Christian Harvinson. He talked to Consortium News about the very thing we're talking about here, about now the pressure has to shift to drop this case. This was a major hurdle that bought Julian Assange a lot of time that he needs, because when you're in the shape he's in, when you're being treated as he's in, in that way, time is precious. But here is the WikiLeaks editor-in-chief.
Bogan for Consortium News, and I'm here with a victorious-looking Christian Harvinson. Tell us about what went on there in the courtroom.
Well, it was such a victorious moment to finally get a glimpse of hope into this case and a glimpse of victory. And I think it is a turning point in the entire fight for the courts here in London to acknowledge how serious this case is. And the signaling to the United States government is so clear. If we scrape away the fancy word and the horsehair wigs and the niceties in the text, the signaling is clear to the United States government. We don't believe your assurances. We don't believe your documents and promises. You are about to discriminate against an individual, and we are not going along with it. So that should be enough for the Biden administration to consider. You're on a losing path. This is now on our side, and the clock is ticking on the chessboard for the Biden administration. Every day that goes on without this case being dropped is a risk of further humiliation for the Biden administration, because it's now become a humiliation on a grand scale and will just become bigger. And he needs to say enough is enough, drop the case.
No lies detected. No lies detected.
Yep.
I mean, that's
well, and that's a smart tack to take. Now it's really, you got to pressure the Biden administration before, God forbid, this poor man dies in prison. Exactly. He did not attend the Day X hearings, and he did not attend this hearing. Given what's at stake, he must be very, very ill to have missed all of these court appearances.
Yes. And so time is precious. Every day is precious. And so, we don't know what Joe Biden meant when he told that reporter on his walk into the White House, what about pardoning, or not pardoning? In this case, he would just be dropping the charges. He says, I'm considering it. We don't know if he was just blowing the guy off to get rid of him or not. That's what it sounded like to me, honestly. But, I mean, now you have time on the legal calendar, but there's the biological calendar. And, that's something that you really have to think about, because if this man dies in custody on these charges, that you are talking about a once-in-a-century disgrace. It already is a once-in-a-century disgrace, but you're really talking about one of the darkest chapters in American history ever, if that happens.
Yeah, and I'm just going to point out again, as I did on Joy's show, that dissident douchebags dialogue thing.
Right.
Not one fucking word about Julian Assange. Not one fucking word. You're holding a speech conference and you don't say a fucking word about a journalist being held in prison for publishing information that, based on previous court rulings, should be protected in regards to a journalist. Not the person who leaks it, but the journalist who publishes it is supposed to be protected. Of
course.
Not one fucking word. All they want to talk about is the pronouns and,
Right.
Yeah. And come on, man. I keep speaking about this because I feel like this is a only Nixon can go to China thing.
Right.
You know how I feel about those issues.
Right.
But it's so obvious that there is this anti-woke commentariat that is just using those issues to hide real issues of speech and to really just serve the State Department. That's why I came away from it saying they're just Republicans with a tech bro paint job. That's all that is.
Right. Exactly. Alrighty, folks. Well, we are going to take a pause now for a word from our sponsors, as we say. Yes, a word from our sponsors, and our sponsors are you, the audience, the Patreon members, the Substack members, and the Locals members who support this program. If you would like to join the club, you can go to patreon.com/DoDissidents. You can also go to DoDissidents.substack.com, or you can join our Locals if you're watching on Rumble right now. Great way to join this show and support our project here is to click that bright red join button underneath the video screen that takes you to our Locals. For as little as $5 a month on Patreon, Substack, or Locals, you get your name up in lights on the show scroll here. You also get call-in access to our post-show Sunday night Q&As, which are done exclusively on Rumble. You also get access to 2 supporter streams per month. That's 2 exclusive shows, private shows, interactive shows. We do about an hour of content on those shows, and we take about an hour of calls on those shows. Those happen twice a month, exclusively for members. The first one of May is happening tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Tomorrow, what you doing tomorrow? You going to watch our supporter stream tomorrow? We got
Tomorrow.
a doubleheader. Tomorrow. That's an
Tomorrow's going to be a good day.
It's an old throwback. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So you could sign up and support our work. It really makes a huge difference. Patreon, Substack, and Locals, DoDissidents.locals.com. We thank you all very much for your support. And our live show in New York City is June 9th. We're doing 2 shows, one at 2 p.m. and one at 7 p.m. Those shows are now sold out, so you cannot get tickets to see us in person, but you can stream those shows live by becoming a member. Those shows will be streamed live for our Patreon, Substack, and Locals members. So you can still catch the show as it happens remotely, virtually, as they say, by becoming a member and signing up and helping us keep this show afloat. So thank you guys very much for your help. And also, we should, while we are paused here, we should plug another event that we have coming up, which is a fundraiser for our friend Jose Vega. We are doing a live fundraiser, Vega for Congress fundraiser with Jimmy Dore and Do Dissidents. That's right. We will be with Jimmy and Jose in the Bronx on June 6th, which is a Thursday night at 8 p.m. So if you wanted tickets to the live show, but they sold out on you, you can come see us with Jimmy and Jose on June 6th. In the Bronx. You can go to DoDissidents.com/Vega fundraiser for tickets. To be clear, Jake made us that hyperlink so we could share it with you so it's simple and easy, so that we're not saying go to eventbrite.com/VXWZ12,
exactly.
right? This has nothing to do with giving us money. We are not seeing a dime of any of these ticket sales. It goes entirely to the Jose Vega campaign. So that hyperlink is just to make it easy for you to buy tickets. That's all that is. So DoDissidents.com/Vega fundraiser if you want to come see us on June 6th in the Bronx. That is going to be loads of fun. We're going to have a comedy set from Jimmy, a stump speech from Jose, and then we will be doing like a roundtable panel discussion as well.
I was just at the venue today. It's a very cool space. The last time I was there in October, they had just taken it over. So they've done a lot of work on it. It's actually a 100-year-old train station. This place used to be a train station. And you can see it still has some of the tile work around the ceilings. Wow. It's very cool. It's a very cool space. I might produce there eventually. I keep talking about doing a monthly cabaret. I would love to do it in that room.
Yeah, it's a really cool room. You texted me some pictures this morning. It's a really, really cool room. It should be a lot of fun. Yep. Bar and everything, it's a fun time.
Got a bar in the back. Yep.
Fun time.
Gonna be a good time.
It's going to be a great time, absolutely. Nobody's seen anything like it. This is going to be the best fundraiser anybody's ever seen.
Very, very smart people are saying they're going to outraise Richie Torres that night with
yes.
this one fundraiser.
Indeed. Indeed. Ruthless Criticism, thanks for the $20. Appreciate that. I find it very difficult to consider the U.S. UK colluding on falsely imprisoning him until he dies. Good news. This is how they'll kill you without killing you. See most political prisoners. Well, I think we made our case in response to that. The fact that the UK court, the fact that they made the U.S. give them those guarantees, I thought at the time, and people thought I was being overly optimistic at the time, I said at the time I had a feeling he's going to win this hearing. And he did, because I don't think they'd have taken that step if they weren't actually skeptical of the U.S. case. And, of course, big picture, every day he's in prison is a crime, in my opinion. And obviously there's still risk of him dying before he gets out. But in terms of this Day X hearing, which they had been working towards for months and months and months and building a case and really, putting everything into, that's a victory. And like we said, like those people said out on the street there, you have to take these victories and use them to build bigger victories. If you're too doomerish about it and you think, well, the inevitable is inevitable no matter what we do, well, then you're not going to get anybody out in the streets protesting, because everybody's going to feel it's all a waste of time and there's no point.
Well, that's it. Sometimes we've been accused of being black-pilled. We're not black-pilled.
No, not black-pilled.
We just don't want to encourage people into pointless political projects.
Right.
That's not being black-pilled. It's not that we're not for anything. We're just against a lot of the bullshit that passes for a political project, what we would consider bullshit.
Exactly.
We don't want to waste people's time, especially real working people, the people that you really need to have a meaningful political project. They don't have the time. They don't have the money to waste. That's why RBN came at Marianne like that. And things kind of went downhill from there because she couldn't handle a question like that.
Exactly. In fairness, he was confirmed dead by Israel pretty early. Yeah, well, he was likely dead. I mean, when a helicopter disappears, I mean, it's never good. It's never good. But we didn't get the confirmation until later that night. Dodger 12, thank you for the $2. Appreciate that. Thank you. Dan says the Supreme Leader is with his versions now. No foul play here, but Kareem Khan, best watch his back. Love you guys. Free Assange. We're going to cover Kareem Khan in just a moment here. We're going to take some more Rumble rants, though. Come on, Russ, you prude. Recreational death is fun, says my real name. Yeah.
No, for example, like going to exotic locales. There's not a huge amount of risk. People do it all the time. They're fine, but there's some risk.
Sure.
I won't not do that because I don't want to live the life where I am living with that kind of limitation. I can't go there. I can't go there. I'm afraid. I won't live like that. But then there are risks where I don't have a burning desire to go up in a helicopter.
Right.
So the risk is just not worth the reward to me.
From what I could tell, it's not pleasant. It's loud, right? I mean, it's not a great time.
Skydiving, that's another one.
Oh yeah, no.
The juice is not worth the squeeze for me.
Skydiving. Let me tell you, the last thing that crosses my mind when I'm on an airplane is I'd like to jump out of this thing. That is literally the last thought in my head when I'm flying. Yeah, it'd be great if I could just kick this door open and jump out.
Yeah.
What are you, insane?
like flying, and flying is not, in spite of the Boeing follies, it's still safer than driving by far.
Right.
By far. But yeah, am I taking the reasonable precaution of trying to avoid Boeings? Yeah, of course, the discount airline that I liked, because the planes are actually very comfortable. I was surprised at how good they were for what the price was. So I looked it up. I was like, can I still use that airline? Their whole fucking fleet are 787 Dreamliners. That's exactly the one the guy said could come apart in the air.
Yeah.
Like, well, can't use those guys anymore.
Yeah. Yep. Indeed. His Highness, clearly the Iranian president was about to blow the whistle on Boeing. Open your eyes, sheeple. Thanks, His Highness. Appreciate that. Oops. Sorry. Topher, check out Into Thin Air about missing weather information on the 19th. Saw it on Redacted yesterday. Oh, well, it's nice that Redacted are covering the Israel thing again. They hadn't covered that for a while, according to what I could tell on their YouTube library. Maybe I'm missing something.
Listen, man, I don't watch a lot of their stuff such that I can comment, but they were a big part of the reason everybody was convinced that there are Jewish goblins in the tunnels of New York. I saw their segment on that.
Oh, you mean You mean Clayton Morris and over there?
Their segment on that was fucking ridiculous, man. Oh, look, a high chair in a storage area.
Right.
Well, that settles it.
Right. Yeah, I have not watched them in a while. All right, I think we're pretty much mostly caught up here. I rented a pirate movie. It was rated R. John Fetterman's a piece of shit. Thank you, Exley Confidential. Appreciate that. This is a mean one. Helen Keller walks into a bar, then a chair, then a table. Look at that.
Oh dear. Dear.
Punching down right there.
That is punching down.
Indeed. All right, let's go to another huge story. We had two massive stories that broke yesterday. There was the Julian Assange ruling, as well as this one here. The International Criminal Court is seeking warrants for Israeli and Hamas leaders. So this from NPR. The chief prosecutor at the International Criminal Court in The Hague said Monday he will seek arrest warrants for top leaders from both Israel and Hamas. ICC prosecutor Karim Khan has asked for warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, as well as the leader of Hamas in Gaza, Yahya Sinwar, and two other senior Hamas officials. Khan has submitted an application with the ICC's panel of judges to issue the warrants. He says Hamas's attacks of last October 7th and the ensuing violence since are the basis for these warrants he's requesting from the court. He said that an initial investigation by his prosecutorial team has indicated that war crimes and crimes against humanity have been committed and continue to be committed by both sides in the Gaza conflict. The charges Netanyahu and Gallant could face for their role in Israel's current Gaza military campaign include the international attacks on a civilian population, murder, persecution, and starvation. Khan said the Israeli state under Netanyahu and its military under Gallant have deprived civilians in Gaza of, quote, all objects indispensable to human survival. Israel is not a party to the international treaty that governs the International Criminal Court, known as the Rome Statute, and from which Khan, as prosecutor, derives his legal power. But the court has previously ruled it maintains legal jurisdiction over the Palestinian territories, including the Gaza Strip, because Palestinian political leaders agreed to grant the court such jurisdiction. That was back in 2015. So here is a tweet from the International Criminal Court, and here is the prosecutor, Khan, giving part of his statement. We're not going to play the full 9.5 minutes, but this is the relevant portion, the most relevant portion, I should say.
Grounds to believe I have reasonable grounds to believe, on the basis of evidence collected and examined by my office, that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Minister of Defense Yoav Gallant bear criminal responsibility for the following international crimes committed on the territory of the State of Palestine from at least the 8th of October 2023. The crimes include starvation of civilians as a method of warfare, willfully causing great suffering, serious injury to body or health or cruel treatment, willful killing or murder, and intentionally directing attacks against a civilian population, as well as crimes against humanity of extermination and or murder, persecution, and allegations of crimes of committing other inhumane acts. It's alleged that these crimes were committed in the context of the ongoing armed conflict and as part of a widespread and systematic attack against the civilian population of Gaza pursuant to a state policy. Unfortunately, these crimes continue to this day.
They look pretty badass there. It looks like a movie poster almost, with the two people standing over his shoulder there. He looks good. He looks not too bad. Not too bad. Okay, so how do you think the Americans took this news? Well, here's Adam Schiff.
Well? No?
The ICC announcement today is not only misguided and repugnant, it is also a terrible overreach of the body's authority. To make a false equivalence between the actions of a democratically elected government and those of Hamas, a brutal terrorist organization, is absurd. You could tell all the talking points. Yeah, you could tell all the talking points came from the same place here.
Hang on. I'm getting so confused. This is all Netanyahu's fault, and he doesn't represent Israel, but it's a democratic country with an elected government. So Netanyahu does represent Israel then? Which is it, guys? Which is it?
Well, now you add a third complicating factor, which is they're saying this is a ridiculous arrest warrant, right? Because you can't equate Netanyahu with Hamas leaders. This is the bit of narrative spin that they're going to try and pull, which we'll get into in a minute. But
why do we keep getting into this on YouTube? Because I keep not being able to respond to that formulation the way I want to.
I'll respond to it the way we can. But yes, this would have been a good Rumble Day segment, but the calendar didn't work out that way. There is no equivalence between Israel and Hamas, says Dean Phillips, friend of show, whose abhorrent terror attack started this crisis and which continues to hold over 100 hostages, including Americans. A shameful and dangerous step.
I am really sorry we did not have him on and give him more support when we had the chance.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Hindsight's 20/20, right? A shameful and dangerous step by the ICC prosecutor who's acting beyond the court's legal purview. While deeply disappointed with Netanyahu's leadership and prosecution of the war, sure you are. If you're disappointed with his prosecution of the war, then why do you oppose this arrest warrant? How could you be disappointed with his prosecution of the war and not think he's a war criminal? That's the question I tried to ask him when I was at his event, but he clearly was not going to allow me to ask him that. This abhorrent stunt by the ICC only complicates the achievement of a ceasefire, the release of hostages, and an increase in much-needed humanitarian aid.
Yeah, it's a stunt.
Yeah.
They just thought it would be fun.
Yeah.
They figured it would boost their Instagram numbers to do this.
Yeah, right. Exactly. They needed some followers, right? This is like the ice bucket challenge, right?
They need to get top influencer dollars.
Exactly. Here's Representative Debbie Wasserman Schmuck, as Russell calls her here. There is no equivalence.
And Adam Schiff.
Oh, I forgot that one too.
Yeah.
I forgot that one. Yes, I did forget that. There is no equivalence. Once again, the word equivalence comes up between Israel and Hamas. Equating a democratic state with a terror group that rapes, murders, delights in acts of genocide, and maximizes civilian deaths demonstrates the ICC's gaping moral failure, moral equivalence. No other nation is held to this standard. Okay, that is so absurd. We will unpack this in a minute. Statement from President Joe Biden on the warrant applications by the International Criminal Court. The ICC prosecutor's application for arrest warrants against Israeli leaders is outrageous, and let me be clear, whatever this prosecutor might imply, there is no equivalence, none, between Israel and Hamas. We will always stand with Israel against threats to its security.
Biting tongue for third time in segment.
Yeah. So I aggregated these tweets, and I say a new holiday is born. May 20th shall from now on be recognized as Western Cope Day to commemorate the turning of the rules-based order against the illegitimate empire and her criminal henchmen. Because that's what this is. This is pure cope. Now, on this question of equivalence, if we want to talk about moral equivalence, that's a conversation we really can't have here, as Russell, my very responsible co-host, has said. And so in the interest of not going out of business, we will leave that for another time. But that is not even really relevant to this, because the ICC is not rendering a moral judgment about anything. They are issuing a legal ruling. And so they are not equating Israel and Hamas. What they're saying is there is evidence of war crimes committed on October 7th, which there were war crimes committed on October 7th to the extent that innocent civilians were targeted, because acts of resistance, while legal under international law, also are governed by the same rules of war as any other act of war. So it is a war crime to attack civilians. So there's evidence that that occurred on October 7th, hence the arrest warrant for Hamas leaders. And there is also ample evidence, as we have been highlighting for the last 7 months, so has every other journalist or commentator worth their weight in dog shit, that there has been gross war crimes committed by Netanyahu and by the Israeli state. So what these propagandist liars are trying to do is they are emphasizing an equivalency in their mind between Israel and Hamas, because they want Israel to be weighed against the standard of Hamas, when really Israel is being evaluated against the standard of international law, hence a warrant for the arrest of Netanyahu. The equivalence argument is a diversion. It is to get you to evaluate one state against the other entity, what have you. That is not the question here. That is not the standard here. The standard against which both Hamas and Israel are being evaluated is the standard of international law and the rules of war. Under which standard Israel is fucking guilty. But not only is Israel fucking guilty, Adam Schiff is also guilty. Dean Phillips is also guilty. Sorry, Adam Schiff is also guilty. Dean Phillips, also guilty. Debbie Wasserman Schmuck, guilty. Joe Biden, guilty. They are obscuring the argument because they are all guilty by association, and this could have legal implications too, because earlier this year, Nicaragua sued Germany at the ICJ for enabling genocide. Now, we do not recognize the jurisdiction of this court, which we will get to in the next segment, but the point is, the reason why they have to obfuscate and say that there's an equivalence being made here is because they have no answer to the argument that Israel is clearly and plainly guilty of war crimes, and they are clearly and plainly guilty of aiding and abetting those war crimes.
And you make a good point, because none of them wanted to go on record saying Israel is not guilty of war crimes.
Exactly.
They only wanted to address this red herring
of an equivalence.
Of an equivalence.
Exactly.
They do not want to be on electronic paper saying Israel is not guilty of these crimes, which in and of itself says a lot, because they're all bought and paid for by AIPAC. They're all virulent Zionists, every one whose quotes you featured, which is not unconnected. Certainly in Joe Biden's case, this is Joe, whoever's paying me Biden.
Right.
This is the senator from what was it, MBNA? They used to call him.
Yeah. Whatever the letter thing is.
I mean,
MBNA,
I saw something. I don't know if it's true. I mean, it makes sense because he's the president. I saw something saying he's gotten the most money from AIPAC of any active politician right now. So, yeah, and as we have pointed out many times, this is very bad for Jews, because you might have heard that there's this rumor that Jews run the world covertly and that governments bow to their will. It doesn't help when you so clearly have these bought and paid for politicians who are just bending over backwards to defy all standards of the international law that they claim to care so much about, to defend a genocide. It really doesn't help to dispel the rumor that the Zog is running things.
Right. Even when, of course, and the Zog is not running things. They are our aircraft carrier. Right. And that's why this is happening. But as you said, that doesn't help. That what they're doing now does not help quash anti-Semitism around the world. They are stoking
it spreads
anti-Semitism.
it.
They are
Exactly.
spreading it. They are spreading it. And Russ and I, for those who don't know, are here for the first time, a couple of Jews ourselves. It is not helpful to have this happen. That's number one. But then also this point here where you have the Democrats who I featured in this tweet montage here, because Biden said it is an equivalence, and you had Adam Schiff, Debbie Wasserman Schmuck. See, got it right for you, Dean Phillips.
Boom.
Those are who we featured today. We did a story a couple weeks ago. 12 Republican senators raised them and actually threatened the ICC, threatened to ban themselves and their families from ever entering the U.S. And so this was just a decaying empire in total meltdown mode yesterday over a ruling that, according to everyone's eyes and ears, makes absolute perfect sense. Absolute perfect sense. You can't argue with this ruling. Now, you want to make moral arguments? Again, that's a conversation we can't have this afternoon. We can do that maybe on Rumble Day. But from a legal standpoint, this is totally sound. This is totally sound. And the fact that
they know
you have these politicians not willing to address that, they are instead putting up, as Russ said, this red herring of, well, this is an equivalency. It's not an equivalency. They are not weighed against the standard of each other. They are weighed against the standard of the international law. That's why you have the ICC in the first place.
Yeah. They are starting to realize, just from the fact that I think if this had happened 5 months ago, they would have argued the genocide.
Right.
This tells you people are starting to realize what history is going to see this as, and they don't want to be in the historical record siding with it in that way.
Exactly. Yep. 100%. All right, we'll take some more Rumble rants and super chats here. Abiding 71, thanks for the $1. Dollars to donuts. That arrogant Pompeo who tried to put out Assange hit has at least 3 boxes of cereal in his cupboard. Yes, indeed.
Nice callback.
Yes, nice callback. Appreciate that. Oh, George. Hey, guys. Hope everyone's well. I just wanted to stop the podcast and have it be about me for a second. Well, that's all right. You paid for it. Okay, cool. Thanks. Love you guys. And oh, yeah, up yours. Thanks, oh, George from Haifa. Appreciate that. Movements live on victories, says Ruthless Criticism. Strong disagree. Movements live on indelible contradictions. Victories versus failures is a false dichotomy. Well, that's your opinion, man. Thank you.
That's like your opinion,
That's like your opinion, man. Gareth Richmond, there's amazing food in London. Russell just didn't know. Well, we did a whole piece on it. There is good food in London.
There is.
Yes.
It's called not British food.
Yeah, right. It's called exotic cuisine. Yes.
It's called formerly colonized people who live in England bringing their food there.
It's called Domino's Pizza. It's called Sbarro. Yeah.
I've explained this. And hey, I went to a nice restaurant with my daughter, which I know was not a bad version because she was happy with it.
Right.
And I had it. I said, this is dog shit, man. This is the good version?
Right.
Fuck out of here with this. I'd rather have a dirty water dog off a cart than this fucking shit.
Giovanni Polidori, thank you for the super sticker. Appreciate that. Chris Shipley, thanks for the $5. ICC dies in helicopter crash. Now, that would be suspicious indeed.
That certainly would be.
Certainly would be. All righty, folks. We're going to move on. So this is
Ian wanted to take me for jellied eel.
That's right. There's this place
jellied
with jellied
eel. Get the fuck out of here, man.
Jellied
eel. Jellied eel.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
I mean, he's a lovely man. I'm not making a comment on Ian. That was very nice of him, but I wasn't eating that.
No, you don't want to take him up on that and then be difficult and not eat it, you know?
Exactly.
That's the thing.
Exactly. I'm sure, like anything else, if you're raised on it, you're used to it.
Yeah, it happened to me once. I was working at my boss's apartment back when I was in tourism, and he had his fiance at the time was this Russian woman, sweet lady, And while we were working off our laptops all day, she was making this soup with like carrots and onions, and then it had like mushrooms and this weird cheese in it. She slaved over this soup for hours and hours and hours and was talking it up all day, how proud she was of it. And my boss was really excited to have it. So when it came time to eat it, I had to eat it. Like, I couldn't say I don't like it. It was disgusting. It tasted absolutely, was one of the worst things I've ever tasted in my life. And she pours me this huge bowl, and I had to just eat the whole thing because it was like this huge thing that day that she was making this soup. So yeah, you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're gonna not be able to eat food and you're gonna have to eat it to be polite.
Especially the place you wanted to take me was like an old school London institution.
Right.
Like apparently this was like the British version of like, you know, going to Lombardi's or something.
Right.
It was this institution. And for me to like spit it out on the plate, I just can't do this. Yeah, no, look, this is the evidence. This is the evidence. And this is the end of the conversation for anyone who's going to defend British cuisine. At the height of the British Empire, Britain controlled 54% of the surface of the earth. And yet British food never became a thing anywhere outside of England. That kind of settles the conversation. And you can't even say it's because it's offbeat. What, Japanese food is not offbeat? It took a little while for sushi to catch on. I remember when only like hipsters would eat that shit. Now everybody eats it. So, and they were never able to sell any people anywhere in the world who were not British subjects on British food.
That's right. All right, we're going to move on. This is a related segment to the ICC seeking arrest warrants against Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. Matthew Miller was at the podium speaking on the State Department's behalf. And obviously, the Biden White House and the Biden Department of State strongly disagrees with this ICC warrant. And so a journalist asked Matthew Miller, okay, so if you think this is an abuse of their jurisdiction, what recourse do the Palestinian people have if they're being war crimed? Pretty fair question, I think. Let's see this exchange.
Momentarily stunned by your original answers. I forgot my question.
Oh, Count Morlock.
Brief.
Yep.
So are you okay then with the application for arrest warrants against Hamas?
We do not believe that they have jurisdiction over either of the parties of this
So
conflict,
you don't think that
includes Hamas.
You don't think that Hamas leaders should be prosecuted?
We absolutely believe that Hamas should be held accountable. That could be. Hold on. Let me finish. That could be either through the prosecution of the war effort by Israel. It could be.
In other words, being killed.
It could be by being killed. It could be by being brought to justice in an Israeli court. We do not believe the ICC has jurisdiction over either of the parties in this case because the Palestinian people do not represent a state.
Okay.
And that includes the leaders of Hamas.
But obviously the administration is also troubled by actions that Israel has taken post-October 7th. So where is the accountability for that? Where do the Palestinians go? This is a question I asked Ned a long time ago, over and over and over again. Where do the Palestinians go to seek redress?
Where do the Palestinians go to seek redress? Great question. I love this guy. He's like an old school reporter. He's got his notepad and his pen and his glasses. Very kind of hard-nosed, scrappy kind of way about him. Yeah, this guy's great. And that's a great question.
Is a throwback to when reporters worked their way up from the press room.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. This guy is not somebody's nephew. Like, this guy actually got where he is the old-fashioned way.
Ned, a long time ago, over and over and over again. Where do the Palestinians go to seek redress?
So let me answer this a couple of different ways. First of all, in the short term, with respect to questions of war crimes, Israel does have open investigations, a number of open investigations. We made this public when we released our report on National Security Memo 20, including some investigations that have become criminal investigations into conduct by members of the IDF. That is the first instance for judging whether someone has committed a war crime or a violation of IDF code of conduct. That's one of the reasons why we have concerns about the ICC. The ICC is set up to be a court of last resort. If a country isn't properly holding itself and its personnel accountable, that's when the ICC comes in. And
that's now. What do you mean? If a country isn't holding itself accountable, that's when the ICC steps in as a last resort. This has been going on for 7 months, and you have done nothing but stonewall these journalists when they ask for follow-ups. Hey, any follow-up on why they hit the Jabalia refugee camp, killing over 100 people for the one Hamas commander that they said was there? We get no follow-ups to any of this. So, yeah, obviously the ICC is set up for when countries don't hold themselves accountable, like Israel, right? And like the United States, even though we do not acknowledge them. He goes on.
The middle of the process, as they have done.
Oh, they're in the middle of the process.
That's it. Ultimately, and you know this, Matt, and because we've spoken about it a lot, we believe that there should be the establishment of an independent Palestinian state. And an independent Palestinian state would have the ability to join the Rome Statute and become a member of the International Criminal Court, as every state in the world has the right to do. But
as cited in the NPR article, the Palestinian territories granted the ICC jurisdiction over their territories 9 years ago.
Well, not only that, the U.S. is blocking UN acknowledgement of the Palestinians as a full member of the UN. Meanwhile, Spain, amongst other countries, are about to recognize Palestine as a nation.
Yes, that too.
So where do they go in the meantime?
They are not SOL. I said, first of all, Israel has its own investigation. Second, we have accountability mechanisms here. We have
okay, so they can come to Israel and the United States for their complaints. That's what you're saying. So where do the Palestinians go if they are being criminally persecuted, bombarded, genocided? To what body can they have their grievances heard? His answer
to the people genociding them, or to the people funding their genocide.
Yeah, that's literally his answer. That is his answer.
There's like the scene in the Gandhi movie where the British general, and this was a historical massacre at a rally. The judge asks him why they opened fire on the crowd and what provisions they had made for the injured, and he says, I was prepared to assist any who applied. That's what this is. They're supposed to come to their murderers for help.
Yeah. Yep. Indeed. That's what he's saying.
Has its own investigations. Second, we have accountability mechanisms here. We have processes that are ongoing to look at Israel's compliance with international humanitarian law. So there are places to look at these questions. It's just in our view, fundamentally not a role of the ICC. And I should say,
so it's fundamentally not the role of a neutral body to adjudicate questions of war crimes, genocide, international law. A question like this is better handled by subjective actors like the country doing the war crime and the country paying the country to do the war crime. That's literally what you're saying. We don't think you need a neutral court to answer these questions. We think might makes right, and that we should be allowed to answer these questions, or Israel should be allowed to answer these questions.
Well, and they didn't feel that way about Russia, which is also not a signatory to the Rome statutes.
Yep. No, they were right out within a week. They were saying Putin needs to be arrested by the ICC, and a warrant did come down, which we supported.
Remember, we have a jurisdictional complaint here, in that we don't believe the ICC has jurisdiction. But if you looked at the statement the Secretary made that I echoed in my opening remarks, that isn't our only problem with the action the prosecutor has taken. We also have a problem that he has short-circuited an investigation and brought this action without waiting to see where these Israeli investigations end up, without completing the trip that he had planned to come to Israel to look into these questions. So it's not just a question of jurisdiction, it's also a question of the way the investigation has been conducted.
Okay, first, I want to get his response to that. But that is just obscene on a whole other level. They're short-circuiting the investigation. You guys have been stalling for 7 months. But by short-circuiting, you mean actually moving forward, as opposed to stalling and stonewalling and bullshitting? Short-circuiting means actually doing it, right?
Well, this is the logic of an abuser.
Yeah.
Well, hey, you just made it worse. Now I'm going to have to beat you worse.
Yep.
So let's just focus on jurisdiction for a second. Who does have jurisdiction here?
So the government of Israel has jurisdiction.
Over
we
the
have,
occupied territory.
We have jurisdiction.
Over Gaza, which is not entirely
They
occupied.
have jurisdiction into looking at the actions
Okay,
by their
so
military
the
personnel.
Palestinians, if they have a complaint, they have to bring it to Israeli courts.
We have jurisdiction, and we
You have
with the
jurisdiction?
use of our equipment.
I'm sorry. How do you have
with the
jurisdiction?
use of our military equipment
Matt,
that we have provided?
How do you have jurisdiction?
If you look at the Leahy law, if you look
No,
at
that's not jurisdiction in a criminal process. That's
not in a
jurisdiction
criminal
over-
process, but it has to do with the determinations that we make and the policies that flow from it.
Yes, but this is a criminal process. The Leahy law says we cannot fund a government that is committing gross human rights violations. That's a policy question.
And yet we continue to fund Israel, so clearly
Well,
that law is not worth the paper it's written on.
Well, this is why they stall and say we have not determined they violated international law because of the Leahy law. But the Leahy law affects the funding. That affects the policy of the United States towards Israel. That does not
criminal
address
liability.
criminal liability. Exactly. So good on this guy for being right on that. Like, don't try and fucking spin this bullshit answer Leahy law. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about criminal liability for criminal acts.
Equipment?
I'm sorry. How do you have
with the
jurisdiction?
use of our military equipment
Matt,
that we have provided?
How do you have jurisdiction?
If you look at the Leahy law, if you look
No,
at
that's not jurisdiction in a criminal process. That's
not in a
jurisdiction
criminal
over-
process, but it has to do with the determinations that we make and the policies that flow
but
from
that's
it.
not
So, but Matt, long term, you were right that we want to see.
used to work for DOJ, Matt.
You were
Come on.
There's
no U.S. does not have jurisdiction.
There are
here.
different. I wasn't referring to criminal jurisdiction, Matt. There are different ways to look at this. Long term, we agree with you that the Palestinians.
It's a criminal court. What do you mean there are different ways to look at this? The question before the world right now is Benjamin Netanyahu guilty of war crimes? That's the question. That's the question. So what do you I mean, the level of obfuscation and deflection is just disgusting. I mean, how shameless are these people that they can go up there and say that and think they're going to slip one past this guy, but talking about the Leahy law, which is about funding, not about criminality. It has nothing to do with what he asked.
But they are going to get away with it. They're going to get away with it with their target audience.
Yes.
They just have to throw out some line of bullshit that Joe and Mika can run with.
Right. And the irony of this is it's all a stall tactic. This guy's talking about they're short-circuiting these processes. That's like you pay a contractor to paint your house. He doesn't show up for work for 2 weeks. Somebody else comes in and paint the house. How dare he short-circuit my work? You're not doing anything. There's no follow-through. There's no follow-up. There is no progress in any of these investigations.
That's my favorite argument. It's going to stall a ceasefire. I mean, that is really the argument of an abuser. Well, don't try to defend yourself. Don't try to improve your situation because it's going to be worse for you. It's going to be worse for you. I'm going to have to beat you worse. You're going to get beat longer if you try to get away from this beating. Don't try to run from me when I beat you.
Right. Yeah. That's exactly what it is.
It's monstrous, and it's no surprise. I haven't seen an update on this poll, but I would imagine the numbers would be worse. Last I heard, you ask people around the world which country is the greatest threat to peace in the world. They don't say Russia. They don't say China. They say the United States. Not by a small margin, overwhelmingly. They say the United States. And clearly, when you look at what we're involved in, when you look at what we're doing, there's no other country that even comes close to our responsibility for murder, violence, genocide, anti-democratic government installations, the overthrow of democratic governments. We are, as Caitlin Johnston will often point out, we're the most propagandized people on earth. Like, most Americans cannot wrap their heads around the idea that we are the baddies. We are the bad guys. Yeah, that doesn't mean other countries are perfect. I've spoken out against some of our geopolitical rivals. I've made the argument the United States being bad doesn't make other places good and spotless and worthy of admiration on every level. Not every criticism of any country outside the United States is a State Department op. But that having been said, the sins of any country outside of the United States are are minor when you look at the actual human suffering caused by a nation. No other nation is anywhere close to the U.S.'s bloody record.
Of course. I mean, it's not even a close call, as you said. And when you look at the disdain we have for those who try and call us out for it, and right. In this case, the ICC isn't even bothering with us because we don't recognize them. They issue an arrest warrant against Benjamin Netanyahu after 7 months of mounting evidence. And what do? We try and spin that into saying, well, you are now trying to litigate the difference between Hamas and Netanyahu. Not what they were doing at all. Not what they were doing at all. But because we cannot answer for our actions or the actions of our key ally, right? And so when that reporter, who apparently the Rumble chat says their name is Matt Lee, thank you for that, His Highness. I'll take your Rumble chat now. His name is Matt Lee of the AP. Long shot, I know, but you should try to get him on. I would love to actually have that guy
would.
Yeah. He would be great. When Matt Lee asks,
that would be like pulling a guy out of a 1930s newspaper drama and having him on the show.
We should have that. That should be in black and white. That episode, yeah, like film noir style. We'll smoke cigarettes
straight from classic film, the front page.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But when he asks, okay, so what redress do the Palestinian people have? The answer, the real answer, according to us, is if you have a grievance against us or one of our key allies, you don't have any place to go. And that's the way we want it. That's the way we want it. And that's why I think, yesterday I called it Western Cope Day. It really was. It really was. I mean, that was a ruling that just exposed this empire as just having no moral standing left with the world. Like, this country is basically Tony Soprano season 6. All pretense of morality, decency, honor, integrity, just out the window. And I wanted to ask Anya about that.
Not only
today.
that, we actually do sell patio furniture.
Yes, and we sell patio furniture. Yes, indeed. But we will have Anya on because I want to talk about that with her. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe next week, although she did just DM us recently, so maybe she confirmed for tomorrow. Maybe she didn't. I'll check after the show. All right, speaking of after the show, seriously, will there be a live show after party? You mean for the for June 9th? I mean, we will say hello to you guys. We're not just going to run away. Well, we will say hello. I don't have a formal location picked out because we're doing 2 shows, so don't forget, at the 2 p.m. we do have to get ready for
yes,
the 7th.
she is confirmed.
Oh, beautiful. So Anya Parampil tomorrow. Beautiful. Excellent. But yes, we will say hi to you guys in some way. We might hang out afterwards if we could pick a place, but we are going to have 2 shows. So between the 2 and the 7, we're going to have more work to do. But we will, don't worry. You will get a handshake and a selfie if you want one. We're not going to hide. All right. Serious. Oops. What did I do? Did I just delete?
Hopefully the guy who wants to throw piss on us doesn't show up.
Yeah, the guy who said, throw piss at new dissidents. One of the trolls wanted to throw piss at us. Hopefully they didn't buy a ticket. If they're going to do that, they should at least wait till the end of the second show so it doesn't smell in there for the second show.
That's just polite.
That's just courtesy. Yeah, exactly. Sloppy Top 10, steak and potatoes are British food and are eaten around the world. Thank you, Sloppy Top 10.
That's not exclusively British food. That's generally European.
Right. Yeah. No, what Russell's talking about is like watery baked beans as a breakfast side.
Yeah,
that's a little bizarre.
or even the Sunday roast, which is what I got, fucking sucked ass. Right. And just like the food that you get on the go, which is most of the food you're gonna get when you actually live someplace, right? You're not usually gonna do a big sit-down restaurant dinner. Like the grab-and-go food is fucking disgusting, man. It's disgusting. I've never been to a major world city, and I've been to several, with food like that, man. Never. Fucking corn kernels and shredded chicken floating in mayonnaise on white bread. There's just, Yo, man, you try to sell that in Rome, they'll arrest you, man. You'll fucking go to jail for trying to give an Italian food like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Terrible.
Yeah. John M says, I smell a rat. Abbas, Ismaili Hanaye is Hamas politician negotiating ceasefire and hostage release. Arrest warrant kneecaps both Hamas and negotiations. Thank you, John. I'll have to look more into that. Where's Skell? Being a Zionist simp is like being Diddy's lawyer. Hard to find a moral high ground when there's so much video. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
That's a very good way to put it.
Good way of putting it. Yes, indeed. Carrie Scott, thanks for the $2. Submitted 2 songs via email. More coming and rhymes. Thank you, Carrie. Oh, yeah, we should clarify because we've gotten tons of emails with song submissions. But Russell said we should clarify, and we should. When we say submissions, go ahead.
We mean original songs. We don't,
or
we
like
don't,
songs
we,
by unknown underground artists who need
don't send us Queensryche.
Right.
Send us an independent artist.
Right. Someone who we can highlight and promote and feature because we're going to have to contact these artists and ask permission to use it before we do it. So we're not just we're not DJs who are going to spin relevant songs. So you know, you should play Blowing in the Wind. And that's not what we mean. Right. We mean, if you are an artist yourself and you want us to feature your work, that's great because then we don't have to go through the added step of finding the artist and asking permission.
Yes.
Or if you know of an underground indie artist who could use the exposure and you want to send them our way, that's awesome too. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so
that's what we're talking about.
Submissions.
Yes.
Yes. Cool. All right. Let's see here. This Rumble rant is done. American helicopter, says Dodger 12, crashed in Iran decades ago. Anyone remember that clusterfuck? Carter Biden,
yeah. Well, that was
character.
that was because Carter approved a rescue mission of the hostages, and the helicopters got taken out in a storm. There was a sandstorm, I think.
Right. All right, we got another segment here. Let's go to segment number 5 on the day. This is a New York segment, folks, regarding big plans from Donald Trump to rally in the South Bronx. So last year, I believe, this was a while ago because this is the episode that I missed because my kid was sick. So Russ, you and Tusker did a segment talking about rumors of Donald Trump eventually planning a big rally in the South Bronx. And some people thought, he's just bluffing, right? He's just a little chest pounding. But no, it's actually happening. It's happening this week. It's happening Thursday. Trump plans a campaign event in the deep blue Bronx. The former president, who has sought to make some political appearances around New York as he stands criminal trial, is set to speak at an event next Thursday at Crotona Park. Former President Donald J. Trump, who has been spending much of his time recently as a criminal defendant in a Manhattan courtroom, will be in a very different New York borough next Thursday when he will hold a campaign event in the Bronx. The gathering is scheduled to take place at Crotona Park, his campaign announced in a statement on Friday evening, declaring that Mr. Trump would, quote, ease the financial pressures placed on households and reestablish law and order in New York. It is an unusual location for a Republican presidential campaign event. The area went for President Biden by about 77 percentage points in the 2020 election. And despite a shift to the right in some of New York State's congressional districts and neighborhoods, including the Bronx, in recent years, the state as a whole is not considered a general election battleground. Well, the point of doing this, even if you can't flip New York State, is this is a very, very good PR move for Trump to be campaigning in a place like the South Bronx because there are a lot of voters in diverse states across the Sun Belt, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, where he is very competitive, and his success in those states is going to depend on closing the margins amongst non-white voters. Now, a lot of polls have him leading amongst Latinos in general.
Yep.
And a Fox News write-up on this, which didn't have a lot of the New York Times sort of condescending snark that you would expect, interviewed an African restaurant owner who said he might vote for Trump, interviewed a Hispanic woman who said, yeah, I probably will end up voting for him. There's a reason they're doing this. It's actually not a stupid move. I think it's actually very smart. And it is going to be a party because, as we can see here, Trump Rally Bronx MAGA cruise sailing to Midtown Manhattan the evening before Trump Rally Bronx. Party like a rock star with New York's finest MAGA patriots. Much more info coming soon. Now, this says it's from 6 to 10.
They better get the info out. It's tomorrow.
It is, it's Thursday, right? Yeah. Oh, no. It's
no.
Oh, no. This is the night before. The night before. And then the rally is Thursday. So if you want to make it like a destination a week in New York, you got the cruise from 6 to 10, and then you go to the rally the next day. Now, this cruise here is BYOB. MAGA cruise. BYOB MAGA
Trump's
cruise.
Throwing a kegger.
Yeah, a kegger on a boat. It's going to be like a pirate ship full of the MAGAs. BYOB MAGA cruise around New York announced to coincide with Trump's Bronx rally. Donald Trump's Manhattan criminal trial and South Bronx rally this coming Thursday aren't the only Make America Great Again shows in town this week. A Trump Rally Bronx MAGA cruise on the evening of May 22nd, the day before the former president appears at his first New York rally in 8 years, was announced on Saturday by the site TrumpSwag.com. This is going to be like to the effete liberal New Yorkers, this is going to be like January 6th coming to town. Like the MAGA people are going to be invading the city.
It's going to be January
in Manhattan.
6 times 6.
Yeah, January 6 times 6. It's going to be MAGA-palooza in New York this week. The city's going to be crawling with the deplorables. Organizers promise an evening to remember. I'm sure it will be an evening to remember. That must be a wild time on that boat. Sailing from Midtown Manhattan the evening before Trump Rally Bronx. Sick means it was a spelling error on the part of TrumpSwag.com. Party like a rock star with New York's finest MAGA patriots, the flyer reads. Only 150 tickets are available at $99 each, food and entertainment included, with cruisers told to board at 6 p.m. for a 6:30 cruising time. That's actually not a bad price, considering food and entertainment. Mimicking Mr. Trump's love of...
Yeah, but this is Trump. That could mean they got cheese doodles and bowls.
That's true, yeah. Although this isn't, I don't think, an official campaign cruise. I think this is outside Trump swag. No, it's TrumpSwag.com. This is a outside, unauthorized operation here.
I see.
Mimicking... No, if it were Trump's campaign, this would be like a high-dollar donor thing, you know? This is just a guy who figures, hey, we'll cash in. We'll make a few grand on this. Right. Mimicking Mr. Trump's love of capital letters in his Truth Social post, the FAQ for the cruise states, bring your own beer, wine, liquor. This is unheard of on a private Manhattan charter, but our captain is allowing. Yeah, it is kind of unheard of to tell people, oh yeah, bring bottles of fucking Jameson onto a boat and chug all you want. They can't cut you off when you bring the booze, right? The bartender, if you've had too much, can say, all right, that's it, you're cut off. You bring your own shit, all bets are off. The departure point is not advertised except for being between 30th and 40th Streets on the west side of Manhattan, or approximately 40th Street elsewhere on the website. More precise information will be emailed to attendees, the site says. Lasting for about 3 hours, the cruise promises to take in the west side of Manhattan, downtown, the Brooklyn Bridge, Governor's Island, the Statue of Liberty, and New Jersey. The skyline and landmarks of New York aside, the boat itself might be quite the sight. This will be a full-fledged MAGA rally in the New York harbor. Bring as many flags, signs as you like. We're going to make history. Fun time in New York City this week. The Trump rally in the Bronx and the BYOB MAGA cruise circling the harbor. That is going to be a wild time on that boat. Just a bunch of shit-faced Trump people with the flags and everything going on. That's going to be quite the time.
Yeah, no, a few hundred shit-faced MAGA people in New York Harbor. What could go wrong?
Yeah, what could go wrong? On a boat going around the city. Yeah. BYOB.
Classy. Yeah, the Trump rally in the South Bronx. I don't think they're going to have to import MAGA people. I have always said this, so. Man. When I was
there
out,
will be.
When
some
I
are
was
going to come from the bridge and tunnels, yeah.
Some are going to come from, well, yeah, but I would still consider that kind of local.
Right.
I mean, they're not going to have to come in.
No.
When I was campaigning for Bernie in Harlem, they would always give me the neighborhood because I lived here. I didn't get a lot of black people telling me that they supported Hillary. I got a lot saying they supported Trump.
Yep.
Old ladies sometimes would tell me they supported Hillary. That's it. When I would get people who even had an opinion. Now, a lot of people didn't have an opinion. A lot of people were just like, yeah, whatever with that. People who had an opinion, they were much more likely to be arguing for Trump than to be arguing for Hillary. So no, I think him being in the South Bronx, you're going to find out there is a big hidden Trump contingent in the South Bronx, in Harlem, in these working class communities of people of color that the media just doesn't tell you about because it doesn't fit the narrative.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. When you and Tusker did the segment, and this was like last summer because my kid was in the hospital last August. So this was a long time ago now. So they've been rumoring this. This is not just because he's in town for trial, right? They've been talking about this for almost a year, trying to set something up like this. And you saw, I forget, it was like a local cable station that went out and interviewed people about would they welcome Trump to the South Bronx. And of course, they've probably edited out some people who said they wouldn't, but you had a lot of people there who said, yeah, of course, I would have him come in. There's not a lot of love for Joe Biden in New York or anywhere in this country. You know, in 2016, the hidden Trump vote was the white rural voter who had never voted in the past, and that's why they were underpolled. In 2024, it's possible the hidden Trump vote are black and brown people who typically vote Democrat, who come out and vote for Trump this time. The polling indicates that. He's winning with Hispanics, according to most polls. And African Americans, he's in the mid-teens to some even low 20s. So there's obviously a major shift going on here, and we have been talking about this for years. This is the ultimate irony. As the Democratic Party has been accusing the Republican Party of being basically this engine of white supremacy, the Republican coalition has gotten more diverse and the Democratic coalition has gotten whiter, as they've been saying that.
Yes. You know, part of my argument on that has always been the culture thing. I have always said the idea that you've got this white heteronormative patriarchy on one side and everyone else on the other, you have got to just have never lived a day in your life in society outside of, ironically, an extremely homogeneous white community to believe that the world exists in that form. You come into a black neighborhood, a Latino neighborhood, they tend to be pretty culturally conservative. So you're not winning anybody over with drag queen story hour from that fucking community. And then economically, who's getting killed the most by this inflation?
Of course.
You know, they talk about the gallon of milk standard. I go by the bacon, egg, and cheese in Harlem standard. And that shit has doubled. I don't even buy those anymore because I just won't. I just won't. $6? I'm not paying $6 for on a roll. Not even on a hero, on a roll. Right. I'm not paying $6. That shit was $3.50 3 years ago. $3.50. Now, I can afford it and I won't pay it. How do people who can't afford it feel, who really actually a lot of their food comes from bodegas in New York? Now you take that and you multiply it across the country. People can't afford to go into fast food restaurants. And in spite of what some people want to say about, minimum wage, they didn't increase the minimum wage all over the fucking country.
Right.
And there's still, you've had an explosion in the cost of fast food, way beyond supermarket prices even. People now, they're starting to report their quarterly earnings. McDonald's, I think, is down like $9 billion from what they thought they were going to report. I could be wrong about that number. It's a few billion.
No,
think
it's
I
big.
remember
It's
9.
big. Well, the Israel stuff has hurt them a lot.
The boycott has hurt them, but also a lot of these restaurants that don't have an Israel boycott are reporting a drop in foot traffic because who the fuck is going to pay that money for fast food?
Yeah, for fake food. Yeah.
For fake food. So now McDonald's is going to do like a $5 menu for a month to try to keep people in the habit of going so you don't break the habit. And of course, look, man, we can have our disagreements about British food, but I think we can all agree people should stop eating that shit anyway.
Oh,
so it might be the best thing for the nation.
Yes, indeed. But no, I think the rally is going to be a big hit. I think it's going to have a lot of people there because don't forget Trump. They say this is the first Trump rally in 8 years in New York. They mean New York State. He rallied in Buffalo in 2016 because of the New York primary.
Mean in New York City.
What?
In New York City.
In New York City, there hasn't been a Trump rally in forever. Trump,
has he ever done one in New York City?
I don't believe so. The New York State rally they're referring to was in Buffalo in advance of the 2016 primary, just to rally the troops.
Okay.
Right. The smart thing about having a Trump rally in Buffalo is you probably get a lot of people from like Pennsylvania and Ohio coming in. Those are swing state voters, so it makes sense to do it there. But no, he's actually going to do this in New York City. I think this is the first New York City Trump rally since he announced in the escalator, which wasn't really a rally. That was just a gathering in Trump Tower. But I do think that a lot of people are going to show up because don't forget, this is the first chance for a lot of New York City dwelling Trump supporters to go to a Trump rally. They've never had the chance before. And so I think it is a smart move. I think it is going to go over quite well. And I think it is going to work pretty well for his campaign as a PR stunt. I mean, as a video, I mean, just the video coming out of that, of what will almost certainly be a pretty diverse rally crowd. And like I said, you're going to have a lot of the whiteys coming in from Long Island and New Jersey. I mean, they're going to be there.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure. It's not going to be
Staten Island.
Exactly.
You're going to have a lot of people coming from Staten Island. Yeah.
Right. But you're going to have a pretty big local turnout, I think, as well. And you're going to cover that. We can disclose that, right? I hope so. I mean, I just did.
Yes. I will be like, how do I not? Donald Trump is doing a fucking rally in the South Bronx. It would be journalistic podcast or malpractice to not go cover that.
Yeah. But they denied him a press pass. they didn't give you press.
A lot of people are saying that you humiliated Professor Dawkins. Professor Dawkins is a very big supporter of ours. Some very smart people are saying you get in there, you're going to embarrass us.
You fake news. It's funny. When I was covering the Trump rally in New Hampshire, you do get a lot of that in the crowd. Like a lot of Trump supporters, they don't really differentiate between an indie podcaster with a cell phone camera coming to ask them questions and like CNN. Like to a lot of those guys,
press.
Anyone with a camera is fake news. Fuck them. That's why some of them were hostile. But so that's going to be something. That's this week. That's Thursday night. So Russell will be there getting some video. And that
they said I think they got bigger fish to fry. They didn't single us out. They said they have a list. Sure. They have a list of approved outlets. If you're not on it, if you're not working for someone on that list, you're not getting a press pass.
Yeah, interesting, because it's an outdoor venue. It's not like it's a capacity issue. They probably just don't want to deal with the headache.
Yeah, well, that's very Donald Trump. Hey, who are they? They got a YouTube show?
The hell with them.
What do we need those people?
Right.
We don't need those people.
No. Those are very bad people.
We want Dana Bash. Right,
exactly, yeah. Kuznetsky was saying G-word is A-OK if there's a U.S. rules-based technicality involving Untermenschen. Thank you, Kuznetsky. Appreciate that. What in the world? Thanks for the $4.99. Apparently, the ICC is for Africans and thugs like Putin, not Western allies, per ICC prosecutor. Well, that's it. They were all for the ICC issuing the warrant against Putin. They were all for that, and they came to that determination within days. Days. This is 7.5 months now.
Right.
Yep. 4 more years. Pause. Thank you. Not sure, but listening. Appreciate that very much. $1 Million Trooper. If you hear a scraping sound, it's not a wet ass pussy. Thank you, $1 Million Trooper. Appreciate that. Y'all must create a parody bit of the Trump MAGA cruise using the Love Boat intro. Yeah, that would be fun. Yo, if you wanted to have fun, you would go cover that cruise ride with the camera.
I mean, honestly, I'm thinking about it. It's just I got so many things to cover this week.
Yeah, it's a lot. And the thing is, that's a risk because you don't know if they're going to let you.
And then I'm stuck on a boat with them.
They could tell you, put that camera away.
They could throw me overboard.
Yeah, or worse. Yeah. Or worse, just tell you to put the camera away and you'd have to hang out there for 4 hours.
I'd have to hang out with these fucking freaks.
Not being allowed to film them. Because that's a private thing, a ticketed event. Like, that's not like you can go in there with a press pass and just start.
Right.
That's like it's like a hotel banquet, you know what I mean? Like
you could do it if you're like writing an article about it.
Yeah, exactly. If you're just there to observe, not going to be sticking cameras in people's faces, hanging out at the dock when they pull back in and everybody's fucking wasted. Now that would be fun. Late at night. Come back fucking hammered after 4 hours of drinking on a Trump cruise. Wow, that would be some funny stuff. Can you ask Anya Parampil, thanks for the $2 sloppy top 10, if there will be an audiobook version of Corporate Coup? I check Audible and it's not there. Yeah,
I mean, it just came out.
Yeah, it just
this
came
out. There's a small press that does a lot of this. The publisher was there, and he also gave me a book of Gaza essays that I'm going to take a look at.
Okay, cool.
There's Or books. They ask that you order it directly from them rather than Amazon, just to mention it if anyone's going to order it.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Stoop sign. Let's see here. Stoop sign. Trump's rally on the west side of Chicago was shut down because of a riot in 2016. Most of the on-camera violence was by older white people against young black people.
That is shocking to me. That is shocking. After seeing some of the comments on our video in which we have the temerity to suggest that Confederate memorials are not in fact honoring history but glorifying the Confederacy.
Right.
I'm really shocked that there are people out there like that.
Yep.
Wow. Who knew?
Yeah. Exactly. Nocturnal Human, thanks for the $1. Jill Stein is on Mother of All Talk Shows with George Galloway tomorrow. I'm your Jill Stein delegation guy. That's cool. I don't have anything against Jill Stein.
George Galloway, he retweets us a lot. We gotta try to get him.
Yeah, that would be great. Michael Castillo, thanks for the $10. I'm cheering Julian Assange. Charges must be dropped now. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. Godfather, Focus. It's an R&B song, and it's great. Thank you, Warrior G. Appreciate that. Like I said, song submissions is better if you email them. This way we can flag them and track them down. But we appreciate that. Hey, shout out to Heartlands Media in the chat. Hey, Kit, Do Dissidents. We saw that event in 2016 that they were talking about.
I remember that.
Awesome. Okay. That is our show for the day, folks. We thank you very much for being here this afternoon. Appreciate it. Please hit that like button on the way out. Please hit that subscribe button on the way out. Hit that follow button on the way out if you're over on Rumble. We appreciate you being here with us today. We will be on tomorrow at 2 p.m. with Anya Parampil. I think we're going to do YouTube and Rumble. We're going to multi-stream that tomorrow. So we will be live at 2 p.m. with special guest Anya Parampil tomorrow afternoon. We'll be doing some additional segments as well. And then patron stream, supporter stream tomorrow night. So if you want access to that, sign up and help support our project, patreon.com/DoDissidents, DoDissidents.substack.com, or you can join our locals, DoDissidents.locals.com. If you're watching over on Rumble, just click that join button, the bright red button underneath the video player, and sign up. And for those who sign up to support the show, you'll get a double header tomorrow, afternoon and evening show. So we will see you guys tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. We thank you very much for being here today.
Let me just say quickly before we go, because I saw some people got in their feelings. I got nothing against England, just the food. Just the food. I had a good time there, in spite of the weather.
People.
No, they're lovely people.
They got great senses of humor.
I love the adaptation of Enemy of the People that I went to see. Yes, great sense of humor. Some of their cultural products are among my favorites. No, nothing against England. The food sucks, that's all.
Yeah, that's all. Well, everybody's got to like every food from everywhere.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
All right, everybody.
It's not
That's
personal.
our show. Thank you very much for being here. We will see you tomorrow, 2 p.m. with guest Anya Parampil. Until then, be safe, be well. Thanks for today.
Oh, Britannia, Britannia rules the waves. Courage.
Please clap.